Okay, ha, that's fun. Yeah, okay, that's nice. Okay, yeah, super good.
That's going to be the intro.
Yeah, hello, is this on? Hello? I should do a little German stupid stuff like this.
Of course. Yeah.
That's the whole point. Like,
We're just going to
hello,
start.
I'll be back.
So, welcome to Techno Hollywood, our first episode.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm Latif, and this is Tan.
No, this is Chi-Thanh.
And this is going to be our first topic, is Tan's trying to find a name.
Identitycrisis.com.
Well, tell us about your different names and what you're trying to figure out.
Oh my God. So, a lot of people know me as, not a lot of people, but quite a few people in the music business know me as Tan New Jam, because that's how I sort of registered as my writer's name. And it's because my real name is Chi-Thanh Nguyen, like every other Vietnamese name there, because I'm Vietnamese German.
And that's the NG Nguyen?
Nguyen.
Is it Nguyen, or is that's Americanized?
I can barely pronounce it myself. It's, I'll try. It's Nguyen. And because it has this weird like swing to it in the end. And it's like, if you don't train these muscles, apparently, as a young kid, no European or no American, for that matter, can really pronounce it properly. It's crazy.
So you're screwed.
Yeah, you're screwed. So that's why I had to basically do it differently with my name. And that's why I used Tan New Jam, like New Yen, New Jam, blah, blah. Okay, but now in Americans, like the real way to pronounce, to spell my name is actually T-H-A-N-H. Which now normal Americans would say, or North Americans would say Than.
Yeah,
Than
and
is
that's what you asked me. You're like, what does THNAH mean? And that's Than.
Yeah, but Than doesn't sound good to me.
Than does not sound, no, you can't do Than.
So then a lot of people, when I was living in Vancouver, we met in New York, but while I was living in Canada for a while, a guy called me Tan, like suntan. I kind of like that. And now people, because I then switched my name to Chi-Thanh as a producer, as an artist, as a DJ, now people, it's all confusing because now
everyone's confused. So
exactly, yeah. I'm confused myself. So.
But there's Tan, which we're already getting rid of, right?
Yeah.
Chi-Thanh.
Yeah.
Or
the German way to say it is Chi-Thanh, but then Tan, no one knows how to pronounce here, really. Yeah. They're like, what? How
Chi-Thanh.
Yeah.
Or Chi-Thanh.
Yeah, so I think it should be Chi-Thanh.
Chi-Thanh.
Yeah, like suntan, but Chi.
And Tan for short?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So we're going to put up the names. It's going to be Tan, Chi-Thanh, Chi-Tan, Tan, Than, or
and then we'll do
German
a big
guy.
Yeah, and then we'll big weird German guy.
We'll do a poll and see what name we like. But it's going to be hard for me, because on this podcast you will come up as Tan, just because it's ingrained in my brain, and that's how I know you. It's like if I just came in and with a new name, it would take you a while.
I know, yeah. That's why it's a learning process, and now we can all witness the process and how you and the world, for that matter, can get to know me as Chi-Thanh.
Yeah,
I still have to have problems saying it.
It's always an issue because you have an ethnic name.
Yeah.
You're like, do I anglicize it? Do I just roll with it?
Yeah.
And that, for me also, I just roll. I'm like, I was like, my first music business job, same thing.
Yeah.
They called you Tan. Yeah. They called me Larry. And then my second one, they called me Fez, which is kind of offensive, but from the guy from the 70s show, they're like, you look like Fez. And then I was just Fez.
Okay, wow.
For like a year. And then on my, even in the credits of one of the albums, it says Fez, Latif Fez Tayor.
I mean, I remember when we go to Starbucks or something, you always say Larry.
Larry, yeah, I can't deal.
I say Tom.
Tom is good.
Because it's the most, in a way,
I think we're going to put Tom in the poll, and Tom's going to win.
No, no, please not.
Chi-Tom.
Chi-Tom, there you go, yeah.
Chi-Tom is kind of good.
No, but Chi-Thanh is always good because there's a French cigarette brand. Like, I don't know, you guys probably didn't have it. It's like Gitanes, and it's the toughest, hardest cigarettes. I just remember from the 80s. Like, you would smoke Gitan Mais and you would literally die. Almost like it's like smoking like a cigar.
We could do a little merch. Like,
I don't even know if it exists. I guess they exist still. And that was the hardest. So in Germany, I would say like, my name's Chi-Thanh. They're like, I like the cigarette. I'm like, yeah, I guess. So they're a similar story.
Yeah. Like Flavor Country, welcome to Chi-Thanh. You start smoking.
I used to smoke, so I can.
Wouldn't we all smoke if it was not bad for you?
Yeah, because it's I think it's such a almost like a communal spiritual thing.
It's something to do instead of because we need to be constantly consuming, otherwise our brains like shut down. It's like consuming without eating.
Yeah, it's like and you have something in your hands and you feel safe. I remember just smoking and you would have it, light it up, and then you would be like just like you had something to do.
A friend,
and a friend in a lonely hour.
A very expensive cancer-causing
talking
friend.
About smoking, so I think Latif is probably the most anti-smoking person I know. I mean, a lot of people hate smoking here, which I understand. I used to smoke. I quit 10 years ago or something. And you can smell smoke like 100 meters away. And you're like, oh my God, something's wrong. Something's off. Like, and I'm like, what's going on?
At a coffee shop, someone's smoking like 3 feet down the road, and you're like, or three houses down. We were at like a Silver Lake coffee shop, and the smoke just wafts in. I'm like, I can't take this.
I don't even smell it, and because I'm still used to it. Here's a story for you. I think smoking is probably banned everywhere on the planet in closed rooms, but Berlin basically.
You can smoke in closed rooms.
You can't. Like, it's not officially. It's not like you're not supposed to. But there's a part of Berlin. I would say Middle or East Berlin, where it's still totally normal to smoke in a bar, to smoke in a club. It's like there's no one says anything against it. If you go to West Berlin, which is the more cleaner, posher side, it's enforced. But in East Berlin, you would die. You would go out to the normal bar, and it's closed, but and it's also no ventilation. I think it's just like
I remember going there in 2006 and. We went to a bakery, and the guy in the bakery is smoking while with the bread, and the whole place smells like cigarettes, and it's like falling in the bread, and he's selling the bread, and he's angry. It was insane.
Yeah, welcome to Germany. No, so that's people still smoke there, and it's you realize it the next day when you smell your clothes smell, the whole place smells. It's because you can just wash them. It's actually bad.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with it around, and then all of a sudden it started disappearing, and it made my life better, and I didn't realize how adverse I am to it. I wish I wasn't, because it makes me kind of unaccommodating. But
that's right. It gets hectic when you
I get stressed. I get
stressed.
Even at Soho House, because they can smoke on the balcony.
Yeah, on the balcony.
And I go out there and let's sit on the balcony, and there's a whole crew smoking. I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. Okay, so you wouldn't last long in Berlin clubs.
But I did it with you. We went around, and I sucked it up.
Yeah. But this is 15 years ago. It's become better for sure for non-smokers, I guess. Yeah.
Right. So you can integrate.
And it's talking about smoking. I thought it's gone, and we were just out the other week, at this time the other month in Berlin, and I looked around, and you said Soho House, and people went for a smoke break, and we were like 8-9 people, and I was the only one staying in. All of a sudden, they're like, "You want to join?" Because all of my friends, young, older, everyone, was smoking again. And I realized, wow, people still smoke. It's still a thing. And I think it's actually, I say North American numbers are probably going down. I feel in Berlin, or in my bubble at least, it's going up. Everyone's smoking.
Yeah. Well, they just came out with tattoos that go away after 9 to 16 months or something. Yeah. They've got to crack this cigarette thing. It's like a gazillion, trillion, $billion market to come up with a cigarette that doesn't kill you.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
That should be. Are they even working on it? Do they do they have meet? That should be every Monday. Come into Philip Morris. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think they have something you vape. You have the
vapes
nicotine.
Are bad for you.
Yeah, you have the nicotine from what I understand, but you don't have the tar. What's it called? The tar. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That you.
But vaping,
smoke.
Even vaping, in a closed room, people think they can just vape, and that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
When there just starts vaping and I can smell it, then I get anxious, and then I hate that person.
How did we talk about smoking?
Because we talked about Berlin, and your story is. Let's back it up to your story. So why don't you tell it? But there's a Berlin element here.
Of course. So it's Techno Hollywood for a reason. Techno implying Berlin, because Berlin is sort of the capital of techno music. And also there has to be a distinction, but I'll get into this later. People mistake techno or electro or EDM for the matter. There's all these different genres actually get thrown into the mix, And
this is just as difficult as your name, Crisis.
Exactly. It's even more difficult. Just to give you an example, if you're a DJ, you know this, but if you go to the main platform to buy music to play, it's called Beatport, beatport.com, And you have, I think, 40, 50 subgenres. And if you, as a normal person that doesn't really, not into the genre, you listen to it, they probably all sound the same or similar to you.
Yeah.
But there's 40 subgenres that every DJ who knows their shit knows, okay, this is more a tech house track, this is a melodic track, this is a deep house track.
As it comes on, they know.
Yeah, the first 5 seconds, I'd say. Actually, the first second from the kick drum already, from the selection of the kick drum, you know? So that dates me back.
Is that limiting as a producer? If like, you're like, oh, I want to make this sound, but I have to use this kick drum to make it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I've heard discussions of producers. They're like, I can't work with this guy anymore. We're discussing bass drums for 5 hours because they're like, no, this bass drum is techno. Like the other guy's like, no, but it misses something. It's not the real techno. And then they argue about how techno a bass drum sound is,
and bass drum meaning like the kick, like
the kick, the break. Exactly. Sorry, the kick drum, the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Again, the rhythm, the main doof, 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 doof. That one.
Yeah.
That's the bass
and that
drum,
kind of doo 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 is not techno, but doo 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 is, and they'll be like arguing.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the sound, the weight of it, the frequencies, the attack, the sustain of the sound. Like it's a whole art form to pick a kick drum because it's one.
Can't you just list them and be like, here's the 12 genres, here's the 12 kick drums, and start?
Yeah, I guess that's what people do. And then if you go to any music software sample pack, you type in techno bass drum, you get the most used techno, and they probably imply that feeling. But then it's of course all about, like with music, everything about pushing the envelope and about like, okay, everyone uses this techno bass drum, I'm gonna use a different techno bass drum. It still has to be techno, but it has to be different again, you know?
Yeah,
and then,
different but not too different.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, which brings us back to, I think, like we always want to also drop some knowledge, I guess, some wisdom, some truth. I mean, I think I read this great quote, which I always use all the time. It's culture and music and everything happens at the break. There's a principle called Maya, M-A-Y-A.
Yeah.
It's like most advanced yet accessible. You know, so basically, like you said, like it has to push the envelope. It has to be a little different, but not too different, because then people don't get it. And this is where art, where culture, where everything sort of happens.
So you go to lose them and then take it one down from that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's where everything's happening for them. If you think about it, and I think that's where. But it's easier said than done, obviously, because you never know. You have to constantly test the limit, probably hit a ceiling, but then back down and test it. You know, like, and that's the beauty of electronic music, for that matter, because, so to circle back a little bit, like I'm a music producer, first of all. I would call myself a musician, so I started piano.
You can play this guitar.
Yeah, I can play this guitar easily, but I'll do it later.
It's my guitar, but he can play it. I can't play it.
He can't play it. You wanted to learn, right?
It's a pandemic guitar. I bought it, and then...
I like it. It's a tele.
Yeah.
It's me. I associate with Prince, which is one of my favorite artists. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so I started piano with 5, guitar when I was 10, 11. Then, of course, in the studio, you learn how to play drums or program drums. I play a little bass. I even have a saxophone at home that I played a couple years. So I'd say I'm a multi-instrumentalist, but guitar and piano are my main instruments. And then it became from, I mean, this is a 20-year journey at this point, but I think in a nutshell, it's basically, my day job is I'm a music producer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a musician, I work in studios. That's how we met.
Yeah, I was an engineer, so I would make and I'm actually still an engineer for this podcast.
Exactly.
But I would mix the records, and like actually came to Berlin to mix
this artist
that Tan had signed to Sony Germany.
Yeah, the artist shout out is called Lucry. Funny backstory to this, because I don't think you know this. So Lucry was back then a Cuban-German artist, and we sort of found him when he was 15, 16, and then there was this. I saw the big potential because he was rapping in German, but he was also, because he's Cuban, he was also rapping in Spanish, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This could be like a thing, you know. And reggaeton, and this was time 2006. I guess, right? 6, 7. Like Daddy Yankee just came on with Gasolina.
Yeah.
And this was the first sort of mainstream reggaeton thing that crossed over.
Which is also defined by a kick drum pattern.
Exactly, yeah.
Pattern more than a sound,
maybe.
More
pattern, yeah. And Fruity Loops, I guess.
Yeah.
So, which is a music production software. So basically, that artist, I saw potential there, and we said, okay, let's try to do the first German reggaeton artist. And then everyone's like, no, reggaeton is not even big. Like the original reggaeton is like it had one club hit in Germany, but it's like, yeah, but this could work. It will, and it was like a novelty. And then we got a deal. We did an album. We even went to Puerto Rico. We met Daddy Yankee. We met other people. Like this was a crazy trip, and we were.
He was in a movie, right?
Yeah, it was. The movie was called Reggaeton produced by J-Lo back then.
Yeah, and he was in it.
He was in it, and Omarion was in it.
Yeah.
So I was hanging out with Omarion. Other story with Omarion. I did a remix for B2K that became big, but we'll talk about this later. How remixing still can change the landscape of music. So basically, where were we? Okay, so Lucry. Now, fast forward, the album did okay. There was a little bit of a falling out, bad management. We can talk about hours for this too, like bad artist management. And then he sort of quit music as an artist and then did his thing, but kept doing music with some friends and kept learning how to produce actually. And now, fast forward, like this week, he probably has like 3 songs on the German charts right now. He's become the number one of the top 5 hip hop producers in Germany.
Yeah, so he stayed with it. It was
he stayed with it, and now the sound, 15 years later, we're talking about being a little bit too early. The main sound of the hip-hop German sound is now German reggaeton. It's basically reggaeton beats or dance beats, but with German language, hard sort of street rap, gangster street rap on top of it. And he's one of the main guys to produce it.
He's like the Curtis Blow of German reggaeton.
I guess so, and it's funny. So I just bumped into him, and he's just like enjoying it, and he even said like, yeah, I used to watch over your shoulder while you I like producing way more than like being an artist and rapping. I'm like, yeah, you could have told me then, like
yeah. I mean, it took a while to figure that out. It took a while
for him to figure it out, but it's just great to see like he's went his way and he's doing really, really fine.
I still have the Lucry vinyl. I think you can see it red right there.
And no one knows that he's been an artist before. So if I say like, it also dates me, obviously, but I'm like, yeah, but I discovered Lucry. I was the first producer, and I got him into the music business. And did you know that he released an album? And everyone's like, what? You mean Lucry, the producer? I'm
so he uses the same name?
Yeah, it's the same name. It's called Produced by Lucry. That's his handle. And it's crazy.
See, he stayed with one name.
He stayed with one name. And that's also because it's Louis Cruz.
Yeah.
And people in the beginners like Lucry also were confused how to pronounce
all
his name.
All tough names are hard, but...
Yeah, but once you get it, you get it.
And it's kind of like, it's okay to discover it, and people want to try more than when we grew up in the 80s, 90s, whenever, and it's like...
And then it sticks into your head, like, that's why I think I'm going to go with, hi, I'm Chi-Thanh, like suntan. And then...
Chi-Thanh? You have a whole speech?
Exactly.
It's a nice day out, suntan, like my name.
Exactly, so I'm a music producer, and then a little bit of backstory, like, turned, but... I think in this industry, to survive the last 20 years, I had to become everything. Like I'm a music producer, but then I eventually became like also a performing artist, like going more into electronic music. I became a DJ. I started like some DJ duos where we would have a live electronic act. Then we started a label, like a dance label, indie label. Then basically being in between those worlds, between the major label pop stuff, but also the more underground electronics music stuff, especially from Berlin, which is sort of the main music there from the subculture. And then now transitioning into like being a manager, because we've built up, I work very closely and I've built up various artists, but one that I work really a lot right now and that we've built up the last, I'd say 2-3 years, is an artist called Joplin. And Joplyn, but that's easy, like Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
And
that's what brought you to LA right now.
To LA right now. We were just out at some pre-Grammy events the other day. No, yesterday. Yeah. See, I'm still like hungover. It's a long night. And so we can talk about that because it was interesting to see how we were like party hopping between those 3-4 parties where we
and these are like parties. They're kind of hard to get into. They get a little.
Yeah, it's because it's every sort of label or like publisher or like brand or like the DSP, meaning like Apple Music, Amazon, TikTok, or Spotify. They're all throwing parties because a lot of artists or managers, a lot of industry people are obviously in.
Yeah, they're
LA
in town
right
for the
now.
Grammys.
They're in town for the Grammys, which is this Sunday. Yeah, and so this is the transition from being just a musician, music producer, songwriter, then artist on stage, then now sort of off stage, and now transitioning into a manager and a sort of a label guy.
Like an elder statesman of the business. Because you have a lot of...
just trying to hustle and survive in essence. But I mean, talk about your transition. I mean, if I talk about Latif, it's like, so we met when he was like a sound engineer, mixer, producer. And then he transitioned more on the business side.
Yep.
And then now he's a stand-up comedian. Everyone's like, what? Like, so it's also quite an unlikely journey. Yeah.
It is an unlikely journey. And it did start with me in music, starting with that. And then after being as an engineer for many years, I just wanted to get out of that. I just kind of saw there was like a ceiling. Yeah. And then I went to the business side where I worked with Rostrom and Benji Grinberg, Kid in a Corner with Alex the Kid.
Good New York Times, shout out to Benji.
Yeah, great time. Benji is one of our close friends. And then Alex the Kid with Imagine Dragons and his whole mini empire. And then there's when I started producing comedy shows, the Comedy Bunker. It became one of the biggest shows in LA, and through that I started hosting it and then performing more and then writing more jokes and then being asked to like perform on shows, and then now it's kind of like a side hustle for me, and I have the monthly show at the Hollywood Improv, which is actually tonight, and I love it. You know, it blends the same brain as music production. It's like you got to write and edit and make it concise, but it also like satisfies like a performing gene. And I remember when we were in New York, people would tell me like, oh, you should do stand-up, and I just didn't understand like that world. I was like, what, there's a guy on stage and why is he doing this?
And you would always crack jokes and just have funny remarks and just make fun of my accent, basically. That's what I remember. But way before you became a stand-up, we would hang out in LA at some parties, events, and then you would just always crack these funny jokes and comments, and it would just make everyone laugh. So you had a natural feeling about it, but it's all about, like, it's like a musician. You know how to jam and play, but then it's all about also writing a song, really.
Exactly.
And then taking that song, producing it, right? I mean, production nowadays is a whole art form, always was in a way. I think it's now even more important, and especially in electronic music. Bringing it back to techno a little bit. It's like production is the key, because in essence, you could have a statement like all the chords and all the melodies have been played or pushed already. All the keys have been put. It's all about like really how it makes people feel the vibe and how you combine things nowadays. You know, like there's nothing really new, which is a hard statement, but it's true. I feel in a way. But what's new, like in music production, is you can combine things, you can mix up things, and you can have all this technology and plugins nowadays to create different texture. But the second layer, which is sort of is new, I guess, you know, because that brings a different sonic element to it in a way. Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's like you have a joke idea, then you got to refine it and make it better and try it, and it's a very rewarding experience to go through those motions, and I love it, and it is an interesting career path. I've never done anything in the right order, so
me neither.
But I think that's okay. I think there's too much pressure to be like, oh, do this, then do that, and then if you don't do it this way, this doesn't work. And sometimes you just got to be like, all right, well, life is opening this door in this direction, and you got to.
It's like we're doing a podcast now.
And that started from I had a headlining gig in San Diego, and Tan's like, "Can I come?" I was like, "Sure." He's like, "Can I bring my mom?"
It's still Tan, by the way. See, you're doing it wrong.
Son Tan asked if he could come along, and he's like, "Can I bring my mom?" I'm like, "Sure." And then you and your mom hopped in the car. We drove to San Diego, and we just have we've always had a good conversational banter. We talk a lot of different subjects, from food to working out, and we have a similar worldview. And I've been talking to Tan for a while, Chi-Thanh, for a while about doing a pod, and I think that kind of solidified it. And now here we are doing the episode.
The first one. It's I mean, from my side, it's also like, so my mom came to visit. She's now based in Berlin, but it's like there's a reason why I'm here also in LA, and in Berlin it's like minus 10 Celsius. Well, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. It's very cold. Yeah. And it's oh my God, it's a phone.
Amateur.
And basically, no. So it's very cold. So I'm trying to escape the Berlin winter, and I'm here right now with my artists and everything. So that's why I'm based in LA, which is lovely. And then also my mom's in Berlin. I say, hey, come out for a couple of weeks, just hang out here. And then she had a family friend in San Diego, and you're like, you have a show in San Diego. Like, okay, let's tag along. I've never been to San Diego.
Yeah, and I don't know what to expect. Like, I met your mom 15 years ago. I was like, your mom's coming in the car. She's coming to a comedy show. And she was great. She was a trooper. She came along. She ate with us. She was like, just happy to be.
She can hang with
him. She hangs. She's totally, not grumpy. She's
no,
just
not
like,
at all. Like, she's very, very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, went out to like some restaurants together. We had a.
Yeah, and on the way there, I was just talking about what just happened because I just bumped into someone at a new place that they built up, and then it turns out it was a connection I had made 5 years ago in LA through another friend, and then this friend now works at a big audio brand, and they invited, and we're looking for someone that can do a presentation, and they were looking for someone female, electronic DJ, live electronic artist who sings also, and I'm like, I think I got the perfect artist for you, you know. And then we sort of, the next morning we had a call, and then now it seems to be all happening, you know, in the next couple of weeks. So this is also for me, it is what sort of LA Hollywood embodies, you know. There's so much opportunity here. You just gotta get out there and sort of
grab it,
I guess. But also, if you stay home all day, all night, like nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, you
but
gotta
also
be in the
if
mix.
You get out the whole time, like you meet all these people, then you still gotta do the work, though. You know, like there's a reason why you have to balance these things. You know, like I know people that know everyone, but they don't have a product. They don't have something concrete. They don't have art. It's always about mixing up art and commerce and have that balance, obviously. But,
another good saying I heard about LA and show business is like, anyone will meet with you once.
Yeah.
But then to meet with you twice, they have to have something.
Exactly. It's the same. It's funny because the same in the DJ club world. It's like you can get booked once for novelty factor, but the rebooking, that's the most important, because then everyone's like, okay, wow, the artist came, they delivered, you know, it went good. Or
people showed up, they
bought tickets. Or even if not a lot of people showed up, but the promoter feels like, okay, this is someone that's serious about their craft and this is something special. I'll give you a second chance, and we build together. You know, like at this stage right now with my artist Joplin, it's all about building. So she just played a small little headline show in San Francisco at the Halcyon Club, and they gave us a chance. You know, it was a daytime party. It was an all female lineup, and it wasn't fully packed out. It was also raining season, and it was a big catastrophe with the floodings and all kinds of stuff in San Francisco. But anyways, like enough people showed up, so it was a good party. Mm-hmm. And they showed up specifically for her and the whole other DJs, and the owner of the venue, she liked it, you know, and she was like, "This is something cool. Like, I want her back. This is something. Let's build together." So we're looking for a home basis or like people, early supporters, like with everything. Like I think in your comedy world too, right?
Yeah.
To basically like to get rebookings and to build and grow an audience together. That's what matters.
Everything in the art is audience building.
Yeah.
And it's not only social media audience building, but it is audience building. So if you have to build your own audience, because the channels aren't the old channels that are just dominated by major corporations anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no more TV channels that dominate.
There's no more monoculture in a way.
Yeah. But it is interesting. There is no more monoculture. But then I was at the gym this morning, and on Good Morning America, they show Beyonce announcing her tour. Yeah. And you're like, okay, only an artist that big gets Good Morning America to announce a tour. And there's like still so much power in that. For those few marquee artists, for those like 5 to 10 slots.
And also these are the artists, they want to ideally reach as many people as possible, you know.
Yeah, because they're doing stadiums.
They're doing stadiums. They need to, like, I talked to like a guy from Live Nation in London when we did a show with Rufus Du Sol this summer. He's like, okay, so how do you become a stadium act? Like, how do you keep building? He's like, yeah, if you really want to be a stadium act, you can't just appeal to like the cool 1,000 hipster Berlin techno lovers anymore. You gotta basically appeal to everyone and their grandmother, you know, like that's how you fill like 80,000 seats, you know.
Yeah.
But that's not how you start, obviously. But at some point you just gotta let it go and just don't be too precious about your brand. But I feel like in the beginning, like to build an artist, it's actually more helpful to start a little bit more left field, off center, you know, because like it's so crowded in the middle, and there's still this dream. Like I'm gonna get rich and famous quickly, and sign me, make me famous, you know. And I think that's even if you want to become that person, like it's the wrong approach, because you got to build on the outsides first, and then slowly but surely,
you're gonna get noticed over there. If you can't. I mean, we grew up in the days when working successfully in music was working on the project. The next project that's going to be rammed down people's throats.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, like we know this is the next one. They're ramming this pop star down their throats. And everyone's on it.
Everyone's on it. Everyone signed off on it. And it's like, okay, we have this much money, and we're just going to force feed it. And everyone just opens up,
and they're jamming it on the radio.
Yeah, it's push marketing. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and nowadays,
and all you had to do was be one of the people on those records.
Yeah. And then you would have your safety check, because you would sell X amount CDs guaranteed almost, like you would get mechanical royalties. And we'll talk about all these music business details, I think.
All the terms,
like more as this develops, because I think...
And we're going to take questions too. So if anyone wants to like explain like what mechanicals are or anything, we'll have like a Q&A portion of this pod eventually.
Yeah, and also like I think there's this big confusion about streaming still, and like a lot of streaming services, Spotify, where to get a bad rep, you know, like, and it's not about we'll talk about this because you need to really break it down and see what the bad rap is about and what the good and bad sides of the streaming economy is, because that's the reality right now.
A lot of the headlines, whether they say this is good or this is bad, it frequently doesn't take into account the entire economic picture. A lot of things look good or bad on paper, but you kind of need to look beyond that headline and be like, all right, because we live in the clickbait culture where they're going to be like, oh, this person got 1 million streams in $5. You're like, okay, there's more to that.
There's more
let's
to
unpack
that story.
that. There's more to how it actually works than that. And, you know, it is unfortunate in some ways, but for what artists lose in their independent CD sales, they gain in other ways that they can control their exposure. So everything is always like a push and a pull. Things change, and you got to kind of adapt.
And people forget like quickly that it's not perfect. It's streaming or Spotify for that matter, whatever. But people tend to forget. I mean, being in the music business for 20 years, like I started at the peak, basically when CD sales, I think it was 99, 2000, when they sold like, I think I remember some headlines, 10 million albums of NSYNC in a week or some shit. Like it was like crazy. Like it was like the pinnacle of CD sales. And then it all came crashing down, but no one realized it. Like I remember like signing projects, getting good fees and all that stuff as a producer, remixer, up until 2003 or 4, and then the majors realized, oh my God, there's this thing called Napster, internet, and it's all going away, like the CD sales, and that. But it was and then by 2006 they sort of adjusted, and the first firing wave came, and I remember like so many of my friends and colleagues got like sort of fired, and everyone's like sort of going into survival mode, in a way. And then there was the iTunes store, and people like, okay, now we're going to sell MP3s. That was sort of a half-assed plan in a way. And then...
It was kind of a bridge plan. It's like, all right, let's capture a little bit of the money before this all goes away too.
Because
no one's buying downloads. I mean, they are, but they aren't.
Like not to compensate for CD sales.
And it's almost more of a pain if you're an independent label to have downloads at all, because then you have to do royalty accounting. If you don't have any downloads, the streaming services will do everything, and then you just get rid of your whole accounting department.
Yeah, that's right. And then also piracy, like no one talks about piracy. It's not like Spotify or the other streamers, like basically in a way they killed
they
piracy.
Made it too convenient. They're like, do you want
the piracy I just read, like, but very on a smaller scale. I think there's always going to be the 10% of people who are not going to pay for anything, and they're just going to go to some weird server somewhere and they just download it.
But that existing doesn't ruin the project anymore. People are going to steal because they can. Digital is like instantly copyable. You can't not steal it. Anyone could go, you could play a CD into your phone, then you have it doesn't matter. There's no way to stop it.
Yeah, but the convenience factor
so you would pay, do you want to spend all day looking for it, or do you want to have the entire catalog of music?
Yeah, exactly.
And that was Spotify's business plan. I read 2 really interesting things about them. One, they were adamant about how it felt when you pressed play.
I know.
They wanted it to play and how it loaded and everything. That had to be like
like a smooth feel. Like
had to feel smooth. Even if it wasn't instant, they had to make it feel instant. And because in the earlier days it wasn't instant, there was some buffering. And that plus they wanted to make it too convenient not to pay for. Or get for free. Sign up and get ad-based.
Like a freemium ad-based for now. Yeah. But the thing is, like, that's why this whole music business, people forget, like, there was 10 years of really the numbers, the whole revenue, the overall range.
I only get into things when they're at the peak. So I got into music production at the peak of CD sales down. Then I got my MBA right when MBAs became not as important. And now I'm in comedy as comedy's dying.
No, comedy's not, it's blowing up. And we're probably like, see, we're doing a podcast while podcasts are dying.
Podcasts are dying.
Well, it's always good timing.
What can we do now that's going to die in 10 years?
Let's think about it. Like, I don't know. Stripping? That's
what I was going to say. Let's do it.
It always boils down to sex.
Oh, man. That's too good. No, yes. I think podcasting is very important of the audience building element, because even though we're kind of hybrids, creative business people, we still need audiences for both those things. And it kind of legitimizes you to have an audience that you speak to and that you are well known in. And I think all the stuff we have to talk about, this pod's going to be really good at sharing knowledge, but also fun stories from the last week, because every week something happens and we're like, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe this happened. There's some crazy party. Maybe crazy. I'll start coming to Berlin again and we can have more.
Yes,
and we're gonna be doing ones remote because you don't live here full time.
No,
so there's gonna be a lot of like catch up. Catch up stories online.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what my life last year was after the pandemic. The artists I work with, Joplin, we did over 60 shows, meaning and worldwide. So we were traveling. We had an Ibiza residency with over 10 shows there. Playing in the club. I think it was voted the #1 club on the planet. It used to be called Space. Now it's called High Ibiza. And it's Ibiza works like this. There's these clubs, these super clubs, which have like 5,000-6,000 capacity venue.
Yeah.
They have a party every day, like for like 5 months throughout the season, meaning like they have a party on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like literally every day. And then there would be residencies. Let's say like on a Wednesday, David Guetta would have a residency. The next day would be Tale of Us. Then Solomon has a residency, or Black Coffee, all these big names. So we were part of we played there monthly as a part of, on a Saturday, it was the Black Coffee residence. And there's a other room, which is also huge. And our buddy Damien Lazarus had his residence there. And he's been an early supporter and of the Joplin project. So he invited her to play once a month there. So we had these shows there, and so it was between Ibiza, but then also traveling all over Europe, playing shows in Germany, in England, and in Romania. For that, then also did 2 US little mini tours already. So basically, it's like, we definitely racked up some miles in the air, and then so I'll be like in the next. I think this year is going to be similar. Obviously, like I'll be somewhere on the planet talking about, but
logging into your laptop,
logging into it, and then talking about techno and Hollywood. And then we have these two sides. I think that which are interesting. Techno embodying the whole electronic music, the Berlin lifestyle, the club culture.
Yep.
And then Hollywood being the almost exact opposite in a way, like being the
mainstream,
show
the business,
and the glitz and the glamour a little bit too, in a way.
And like how you navigate to take your art and your passion into something that's monetizable in a way, and become something that's like not just a side business, but something that's like becomes like a real thing. And it's really encouraging to watch you do that, like with Joplin, and having like really good booking team at CAA that's like getting her good shows and getting her good venues, and like watching the way they structure and build that is very interesting from someone who did not grow up in the club culture or the Berlin scene or even that kind of music. And like kind of like what you said earlier, like techno to me, I'm like, I can't really quite. This could be a learning experience for me, because when you play me something, I'm like, that's definitely cooler than like the other stuff. Like it has like a more indie vibe, but I don't know all those different subgenres.
And also like I feel like electronic music, it's interesting. Like it's always like, if you look at the mainstream music genres right now, I definitely say it's hip hop and urban music, for lack of a better term, right now. But
now it's your alarm.
That's my alarm. I don't know. We're both, but it's actually my hourly alarm to get up and move my ass.
We can't. We have 20 more minutes.
No, that's why. It's 12 o'clock now, I feel.
Okay.
Anyway, so basically, what was I going to say? With techno music, like it's basically it's a subcut, like urban hip hop. Like I remember listening to and growing up with hip hop music in Germany, in Stuttgart, because we used to have a lot of American military barracks around us, and
no more.
There's still a few, obviously, but not as much anymore. But in the 90s, 80s, 90s, they were there. And they had the coolest clubs, the parties. I would have American friends. They would bring me to those military barracks and sort of experience American culture. Like that's why there's a thing that's like German hip hop. Definitely, a lot of big German hip hop artists originated from the south of Germany because there were more American military bases there.
And they kind of spread the culture.
Yeah, Frankfurt and I think they spread the hip hop culture. So hip hop when I was growing up was definitely a subculture. You could not hear it on the radio. Yeah. It was basically like a club.
Even
thing,
in Canada, it was a subculture. It wasn't on the radio. It was like Z95.3 and LG73, and you maybe sneak on like one rap song because it totally crossed over, but like.
Yeah, but that's why I feel like, and then now it's become so big and ubiquitous, and now like the next subculture in a way, but. Which is, I mean, it's always been around, really, if you think about it, the house and techno and club music from the 80s for that matter. But I feel like in a little bit of a modern mainstream, definitely like it's interesting to talk about, like there was a EDM wave here in the US that this was like, I would say 10 years ago, like when it was, okay, that's the new next thing. But for us in Europe, it was always there in a way. And actually the EDM thing is something more credible underground don't want to be associated with because it was the selling out moment, the crossover moment.
Yeah.
And now it's basically come back to a little bit to the club again. And you can feel it on islands like, or markets for that matter. Like Ibiza is the mecca of electronic music worldwide, I would say. Yeah.
Still. For a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. It started in the also 70s, 80s type of thing with the disco.
Oh, movement. That long?
Yeah. It's like the story is like, mainly a bunch of Brits went over there, and then sort of there was a few like really cool Spanish experimental DJs. They mixed up disco and funk and some Latin sort of stuff, and that became sort of the soundtrack there. And then they just liked the island. It was a hippie vibe. It was all like people doing drugs, spacing out and stuff. And it was a short flight in a way from England. And then there were like 4 or 5 bigger DJ names that sort of put up their residency. They threw parties there, and then people experienced it, went back to England, talked about it. Then a bunch of Germans did it too, like a little bit later, and then it just sort of became this whole island where anything goes. You could try different stuff. It was very underground electronic music still, and now then it became like everything. Now it became a big business too. Yeah, of course,
right.
And it's
synonymous with that music. Like it's a brand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a city and a brand.
It's city and a brand. It blew up. It was like a fishing village in a way. Like Ibiza, it's a small place.
Are there fishing people that are just pissed because of all the music?
Yeah, no, and also basically because it just transformed the island totally. And now, just to give you a little number, these clubs can turn over $1 million a night. Like just by entrance, table fees, and all that stuff, and everything's become like very expensive right now.
So it's like high end.
It's
like
high
luxury.
end, it's very luxury now. It doesn't have to be. There's still like some sort of. You can also find a cool local party where you don't have to pay $100 to get in a way. But let's say the big parties, the big with people save up like their years of work to spend it all in 1 week in Ibiza in a way, right? I guess people do that here to go to Vegas or Coachella or like Ultra Festival or something, But that's what people do for Ibiza, You don't have to do, but that's a thing for sure.
It's the people who save up. Probably there's a class of people who are like professionals. I'm sure there's a bunch of dentists that go and stuff, and like.
Yeah. So it's a very mixed crowd. You'll have like the bougie crowd. You have then you have the real ravers that are sort of pissed that everything's getting too expensive because they used to be able to fly to Ibiza very cheaply, crash somewhere, and then just have crazy parties, have fun. this is now all like you have to plan it. You get the tickets, the hotel prices, even for like shitholes are like ridiculously expensive now. So it's a different experience.
Like Coachella.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And then, but people say like it's gonna probably die in a way, and it's sort of with the pandemic, of course, it got hit. But the last year was crazy. Like it was. Every party was packed. Every party was full.
And when you say season, like how long is this?
The season starts like it used to be only 3-4 months. Now they extended it. Like I think the official start is like the IMS, which is like a Ibiza Music Summit, like a big music conference, end of April. And then there's a big thing called the opening parties in Ibiza, and that's we're talking beginning of May now. Like last year, I think it was beginning of May. It used to be a different time, but now it's beginning of May, and then it goes all the way to October. So yeah, at least, and then I believe
no. And is this just like unofficial, or is
no?
Like,
that's official. Like they say, this is sort of the openings of the clubs, and then there's closing parties.
So they close them all, and then they're done for the.
They're done. They're closed. These clubs, we're talking super huge clubs. They're just basically
empty.
Empty. And then it's off season. And I was staying in Ibiza last year for 2 months working on.
So if you want to fish, you go in the off season.
Exactly. I was like, then it becomes a fishing village again.
Yeah,
it's only the real locals.
That sounds good to me. I want to go. I want to go during the fishing village.
And it's beautiful. Like, and it's. I mean, there's Michelin star restaurants there on the island. Like, it's a food island. Only 10% of the restaurants and things are open, but the ones that are open are really good, and then it's only for the locals. And there's so many people that now live there. You know, like a lot of the people.
They just party and then leave.
Yeah, exactly. They just partied and then they just didn't leave. And the island is very mixed. Like it's very like I would say the main people, like of course there's a bunch of Germans there, and then there's Brits.
Why,
there.
Of course.
Yeah, because Germans try to escape their miserable weather and life in Germany. It's true. Like I mean, Mallorca, the other island on the Balearic. Is basically it's a German island. They say like you go there, you can speak German there, and it's basically 90% occupied by Germans. Ja, hallo, ich spreche Deutsch. I'll be back. so and basically Mallorca is the mainstream island for the Germans, and Ibiza is sort of.
I like that. I'll be back is not even German. This was a guy doing a German accent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but he's not even German. Arnold Schwarzenegger is Austrian. But same shit.
You're gonna split hairs now. The Canadians of Germany.
Yeah, the Canadians of Germany. Exactly. Yeah. And so basically, but Ibiza it stays open for 5 months, and it has like 10 super clubs, and all these clubs are open I think someone did the math. I think you need like 100,000 of people to be in Ibiza, or fresh people every week to fly in and out for 5 months.
Fresh people?
Good. Yeah, because people come and they don't stay like fresh people off the boat. Like, basically
off the plane.
Off the plane.
Because they get used up. They're just not fresh anymore.
Yeah, no one can afford a stays in Ibiza longer than 1-2 weeks. So everyone sort of goes in, stays 1-2 weeks, parties.
Are they dropping like 10 grand for 2 weeks or more?
I would say typically, at least 10 grand for probably more. Well, for a normal Ibiza holiday, if you want to enjoy the club madness, and then so also during the day be at a beach club and all these things, and you need a okay hotel, you probably need a driver because there's no Ubers and nothing. Like you would need a cab. There's no cabs really that you can call. Like there are, but there aren't. So you need like all this.
You need
stuff.
Like a paid driver with you.
Yeah.
You could be like you could set up like techno tours.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are drivers that make really solid business during the season, and all this together, like at least we're talking 10 grand a week. That's not enough,
right?
To sort of to party, to even be there. You know, like
it's just money's. It's like money's just flying out the door.
It's flying out the door. It's crazy. It's like I mean, LA and New York are not cheap, obviously cities, especially.
But you're not. I guess because you're not partying and you're not. You're kind of like working and you're kind of living when you come to LA and New York in a way.
Yeah. But also, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not paying this because...
Well, you're on the inside.
I'm on the inside, exactly. I don't pay for club entries.
No.
We're working there. We're actually making money, ideally. And also, we have friends that have, thank God, guest rooms. So everyone sort of, not everyone, but a lot of people have houses there, obviously. And then they have a little guest room. And if you just come there and you don't know anyone, then you have to pay for hotel.
You're a fresh person. They'll pluck you like a chicken.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they plug you, and then if you think about it, but there's like really, these clubs have 5,000 people. There's one club, I believe, Amnesia, has 10,000 people a night, every night.
So even so, 10,000 times $100.
Yeah, that's just the entry, but that's not even, the entry fee is one thing.
But that's $1 million right there.
Yeah, but then the thing is like the real money gets made like everywhere on the tables, obviously. Like you just to have a table, like there's different levels of tables. Like you can have like a table a little bit close to the DJ or to the booth or behind it, that you would pay maybe $2,000 or $5,000. The closer you get to the action, to the DJ booth, to the star, like you can drop a minimum. You would have to spend $20,000 on the table, meaning that you get a table, a place to sit, like 5 to 8 people, whatever. Like Vegas,
cranberry
I guess.
Juice,
some
orange
juices
juice,
and some alcohol
water.
that no one drinks because everyone's just smashed on other stuff. You know, like you don't necessarily drink alcohol when you're on
but you gotta buy it.
But
you're forced to buy it. Yeah,
and then you invite people. All these alcohol bottles are mainly full if you look at the bigger tables.
Smell it as water.
So yeah, that's the reality of the event. And then
but even the ticket, like there's a finite amount of tables, right?
Yeah,
so even the ticket prices, just that amount of tickets, 10,000 people.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah,
they're that big.
Yeah, they're that big. Yeah, that's the biggest one. But the general biggest, the normal ones are 2,000 people, 5,000 people. That's the normal size.
In the sea of people.
Yeah, you're in the sea of people on the main floor, and you need
like a Jennifer Lopez video with like the lights flashing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have
nothing's changed.
And then you have at least 4 or 5 areas now, and it gets so confusing. Here's a little story. So we had like in these, it's all about getting the right bands always, in these Ibiza clubs. Like, so you get in and you get the normal admission band, but then it's like, okay, you need a band for the VIP, but then the VIP is only the normal VIP. Then you need a band to get close to the DJ booth. It says DJ booth on the band. And then you need like a access all areas backstage. Then there's a backstage like where the artists hang. And so in the end, like you just work your way up, and in the same club, we're talking the same night, you end up having 4 or 5 bands in the end. And it's so confusing that the bouncers that stand at every freaking 2 meters, there's a bouncer, and at some weird door, and there's like you can't go here, you can't go. They're so confused.
This is an American podcast. No one knows what a meter is. That's 6 feet. Okay?
That's So basically, it's and then they have a list themselves, like a cheat sheet. They were like, wait, what's your band? They pulled it out, and it had like 10 different bands with different colors. They're like, let me see.
That's a Drake song.
Yeah. And then they basically looked at it, it's like, I guess, they're confused themselves, like, because they don't know who to let in what door at some point. Like, that's how crazy it gets, and it's not like one band, you're like, it says VIP, I guess we're fine. No, you're not.
And are you like fighting throughout, like you're like, all right, I got the first, you're like, it's like a video game, you're leveling up, like I got the first band, I gotta find Tony who's over here with the second band, let's go. And you find Tony, I'm out of bands, go see Andrew. And then you go see Andrew, and then you're like, all right, I got the second band, and then
you're like, okay, is everyone has the bands? And like, no, of course there's always one person. Oh no!
All right, we'll see you later.
Yeah, exactly. I only have this band. Like, and then it's like, okay, it's not
been nice knowing you.
Nice knowing you. See you around, and then we'll just go to the next section.
You just like lose friends throughout the night,
definitely. And you would think, like, as an artist that we performed there, you would get like artist access.
So this is you fighting through, and you're the artist.
Exactly. We're the talent. We're on the flyer. We're on the billboard. We're on the social media, and we can't get to the other stage. Where Black Coffee, of course, he's a star and it's all deserved and everything, but we can't get close to him. So we need to befriend like some artist liaison managers.
And how are you doing this with like the music?
Exactly, and it's blasting music. And
everyone's speaking different languages?
Everyone's Spanish, English, German, and it's like...
This sounds like
a mess. And this is just us navigating through, trying to get... to see some other artists and even to say hello and say thank you for having us play at your party.
This is Survivor Ibiza edition. You dropped in a club, figure out which band will get you backstage.
Exactly. And it used to be so simple. It would just be like maybe one band to go backstage, see the artist, meet someone that you work with. Like it's and everyone that I talk to has a similar experience. It's like. And there's no way, I try to navigate these things, and I've been in club business my whole life, I feel like, and then I know how to work and be in a club and what to look for, but it's like, it's a whole different setup, a game. And as you said, like, in the end, like, there's this one bottle service girl all of a sudden has all the right bands.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, she has the bands.
Then let's buy a bottle.
Exactly. And then she gives you the right bands. And you got to befriend everyone because you never know who's going to give you the right band at what moment in time.
They make all these ridiculous video games now, like Be a Construction Worker Simulator, where you're like, you are a construction worker and you like drive a forklift and you drive like boxes of junk around to like different places, and people buy and play these games. This is a game.
Yeah, this is a game.
Like club survive the club, and then you get dropped in, and it's like you have to talk to different people, get the bands. You got to fight a bouncer, like knock him out.
And I would say, what's the end goal? Like, when do I feel like I've sort of made it?
But then you probably leave.
Yeah,
The second you get the last band, you're like, we can go now.
We can go now. Yeah, no, I think the main one is you get to the actual DJ while he's playing, and you can give him a hug and be like, hey, I'm here. I made it.
Yeah.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
And then the next level is after he played, he's going to disappear somewhere in the club. And you got to find that spot and then be able to hang with him and his crew.
And not embarrass yourself.
Not embarrass. And then some extravaganza sort of happens in the backstage of the backstage.
And then the bonus round, on your way out, you sell each band back down the line.
The bonus, I tell you what the bonus in Ibiza is. It's the after parties. So like these clubs go till... normally till 6 a.m., 8 a.m. sometimes, the pacha or whatever. And then, of course, because people are wired up and everyone's been dancing, having fun, no one's going home. I mean, the sun is coming up, but then it's like, okay, where's the after party? And that's the next level then. That's a whole nother game. So you got to know who's going to throw the after party, whose house is it at, or who's... Then they have houses with hidden clubs inside the house. They rent houses where you have clubs because you can't just party in a house anymore because then it gets shut down. There's always all these neighbors anymore. And you can also, there's no beach parties anymore. It's all the good stuff of Ibiza, like open beach parties throughout the whole night or like in a mansion. It's all done because it's like, it's so crowded now, the island, and it's so many people are complaining they bought a nice house for whatever 10 million. They don't want to have a party every morning.
But like if you're buying don't you know you're buying a house and like party?
I know, that's what I don't understand. Like people
are they like, oh, it's a fishing village? What? There's we didn't know there's techno here.
Yeah, so I guess like it's the same with in Berlin. Like bringing it back to Berlin, like when you came to Berlin, this was the beginning of 2000s. This was the first wave of gentrification, I would say. But because the real cool parties, like I wasn't there really. It was when the wall came down in the 90, like 89, 90. Then a lot of people came to Berlin, like the real early adopters, and it was like a...
Early adopters, they're just there.
They're just there.
But the wall's down. They're like, we've been living here.
I know, but I'm talking about West Germans in a way, going to Berlin and saying, let's see what the city is about, and let's experience it, and let's occupy these crazy spaces and just do cool shit in there. Like illegal parties, illegal restaurants, illegal everything, because no one knew who
There's no rules yet.
There's no rules yet.
They haven't written the laws.
And then we were talking the center of the city. We're talking abandoned buildings where you could just live and squat and work and party and for like 10 years, like between 90 and 2000. And then when we came 2002, and basically this is where it was still there, like the roughness, and you could still have like some weird house in the center of the city, like, hey, there's a club, I guess, here, and then you open the door, and then there's a bar and a club, like all improvised, all like illegal. And then when you came, it's all about the first wave of gentrification. And now, basically, in that part where we used to live in, used to be an artist part because it was in the center, the Prenzlauer Berg. It was artists came there first, and then it was like a cool vibe.
Yeah.
We lived there, like it was relatively cheap, like way cheaper than, let's say, Hamburg or Stuttgart or Munich for that matter, like although it was the capital of Germany. And then people from all these smaller towns came, and then they had a wild time there at a party. But then now, of course, they all like more established. They then maybe bought houses or apartments there. They have a family, kids. And these are the same people now that used to party hard, and now they're like complaining and calling the police.
Everyone gets older.
And they're like basically having all these noise complaints out. And that's definitely a thing now because it's so It's like Ibiza, like you're in a party town. You're in the middle of, and then you buy a house, you're an apartment, and then you're complaining about noise and party. You know, like, but you 10 years ago you used to party there.
Right.
You know?
How do you think you found out about this island?
Exactly.
You're like, this would be nice, and now you're trying to shut it down. And you become the man.
Yeah, you become the man. Yeah. You start off.
We all become the man.
Yeah, against the man. Then we're all becoming the. But it's always about the balance, obviously, right?
Yeah.
You play with the system, but you don't. You know, like especially being an artist and being in the arts, like you try to push the envelope and see what's interesting still, what's subculture, what's happening, what's going on, you know?
Yeah. It is about balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good place to wrap it up on the balance.
Already? Okay, good. Yes. Yeah.
And I think this brings us back to the thing we talked about at the beginning. My name and your name.
Yeah.
And since we're going to drop our Instagrams, I'm at Latif Tayor. And this will just kind of put a wrap on, I should spell that, Tay, Latif Tayour. Follow me. Yeah. And follow... And Tan's going to drop his name.
Okay, here, I have to concentrate now. It's Chi-Thanh, and my handle is at Chi-Thanh Berlin, which is CHITHANH Berlin. No one's going to remember this. It's the most complicated one. But anyways, that's
we'll work on
handle.
that. And follow at Techno Hollywood Pod.
Or as we call it, Tech Ho.
Oh yeah, the Tech Hoes. The fans will be the Tech Hoes. Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff coming. We got mugs. We're going to have a new backdrop. This is Techno Hollywood Beta 1.0 or 0.9.
0.8.
0.8. So it's we're excited to be doing this. We'll be here every week, and I think we have a lot of fun stories and knowledge and Berlin and LA and stuff to drop.
It's crazy how this started in like a week ago, and now we're doing it. You know, that's how fast you can do from process, not overthink stuff, and just do it.
And it's such a natural momentum, and it already feels good. So follow us. Perfect. We'll be back next week. Cool. Subscribe on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, all the platforms, and we'll be here for you. So perfect. Thanks again.
Cheers.